As a supervision officer, should you trust the firms that you oversee? And should they trust you? What is trust actually in a supervision context? And how can it be improved without being naive? My name is Elton Koster, and this is Supervision Strategy. It is clear, both from research and practical experience, that regulation can be a lot more effective and efficient if there is a certain degree of legitimate trust between a regulator and a regulated firm. But there is a catch here, of course, and it lies in the word legitimate. Because trust only works well if there is indeed good reason for people to trust each other. But of course, if this trust is unfounded, then you're dealing with a naive regulator, or perhaps a naive firm. It's not so great. I guess one of the most common accusations made towards regulators is indeed that they might be naive or even captured by business interests. So if you want to work on a regulatory relationship that is based on legitimate, well-founded trust, then I think it makes a lot of sense to have a firm grip on the building blocks of trust in a regulatory supervision context. According to research and my own experience, the core elements of trustworthiness between a regulator and a firm are competence and benevolence. And this goes both ways. So as a regulator, you might be inclined to trust a firm to the extent that you think that they both have the intention to comply with regulations and the competence to ensure this in their everyday practice. But the other way around, a firm might also only trust a regulator, for instance, tell the regulator proactively about a security incident, if it feels that the regulator will interpret this information in a benevolent way and is able to indeed appreciate this information in its corporate context. And this has a personal and an organizational level. So, for instance, a firm might trust you personally to be fair and competent, but it may still be hesitant to come forward with information if your organization has a reputation of being unreasonably harsh. But the most fundamental components of trust are uncertainty and vulnerability. Because if you think about it, trust is only really relevant in situations of uncertainty. If I can be certain that this firm will comply with the law, it doesn't really matter if I trust them or not. This uncertainty implies that trusting a firm will always make me vulnerable. So for example, if I trust a firm to adequately implement new regulations, and later it turns out that this trust was unfounded, then I might be held accountable for being a naive regulator. So if you consider these 6 building blocks of trust, this will already give you some good pointers on how to work on trust, legitimate trust, in a regulatory relationship. So to build legitimate trust, both parties need to consistently demonstrate competence and benevolence on a personal and an organizational level. But trust isn't just about what you show, it's also about how this is perceived and how you communicate about this relationship. So I remember once being personally offended when a firm was refusing to hand over sensitive information, because I felt they were distrusting my personal good intentions. But instead of simply ordering the firm to hand over the information, I chose to express how I felt about this to a representative of the firm. And then it turned out that it wasn't about my good intentions. Rather, they were hesitant because they were not so sure about my organization's competence to safeguard sensitive information. Because they heard some rumor that somebody lost a memory stick at some point. So when I found out that that was the building block of trust that was missing, I could easily supplement that by simply explaining how their data will be safeguarded. Now, in my experience, this kind of communication, where both parties are willing to be a little bit vulnerable, can help tremendously in building trust in a supervision relationship. Because after all, displaying vulnerability, displaying trust in a way, builds trust. So, what are your thoughts on trust in a supervision relationship? Let us all know in the comment section, or let me know at supervisionstrategy.com. Until next time, thank you for watching and thank you for working on supervision.